Welcome back to Mortal Kombat Armageddon. So, yeah, let's check this shit out.
You sound like you're not looking forward to this.
Sound very enthused.
Oh yeah, can you tell about the can you
At least with Sub-Zero it worked, I suppose.
can you feel the enthusiasm in my voice, Dwibs? Anyway,
Well, wonder how much. Well, I can pinpoint a few reasons. The quality of the game the quality of the game itself. That we've done like at least seven of these games in the span of just a couple of months.
I'd say that the fact that we've done 7 of these games is the least
Killer
of our problems
Fatality?
because... okay, look, Dwibs. I'd say that the fact that this is our 7th game doing this, that's the least reason to have a little mount because, you know, again, even with Game 6, at least we could say that the story kind of entertained us or at least didn't bore us. I mean, sure, it may have enraged us, but it didn't bore us. I think the name of the game with this game is boring in the sense that even stuff that's done not bad is just
moral fatality, whatever. It's literally just a combination of various, you know, random generic moves. Go on.
Sorry, go on,
I just thought of something. I wonder if there's ever been a point where someone... Okay, I'm not sure how Jax's metal arms work exactly, but I'm surprised someone doesn't try and, like, hack or manipulate his arms in some way to make him hit himself.
No, they don't. It doesn't work like that. The metal arms are directly tied to his brain, kind of like the tentacles in Dr. Octopus, basically. So it doesn't really work like that. That being said, they do have the feature of turning into either swords, as it does in his Fatality in 3, or weapons, as he does in the Battle of the Realms. So
tell me, Pedro, when it comes to the fatalities in this game, are they stuff that you can do right on the fly, or are they ones that you basically, you know, make in advance and then tether to each character?
Yes, you can create a fatality that gives you the specific type of moves, yes, and you can make them very long, as you're seeing right now. So there's like 9 to 10 chains of moves you can do, and you have to do them all well with the good timing and blah, blah, blah. And the higher and more, I guess, fatal your fatality is, the better you get. It can be a killer fatality, a bloody fatality, a moral fatality, ultimate fatality, blah 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 blah.
Fatalities we've seen.
That being said, the fatalities go on forever. It doesn't change the fact that they're incredibly lame.
So I guess to answer my question, it's stuff that's done on the fly right there and then, but you can choose whichever order to do it right there, right
if
then.
If anything, Jova is a slower version of the brutality system
Yeah,
from the older trilogy.
basically, yeah.
Except you get to literally choose however you want to do it.
And to be honest, some of the moves are staple of the characters, like ripping off the spine with the skull, or you know, the ribs, the brain, you know, in a specific manner. The problem is
that everybody has access to it, in which case...
Not every single one, but a lot of characters do share with each other. It's just like a rotation or something.
There you go, see?
Oh, okay, Melina actually has apparently some different stuff.
Yeah, there is some level of originality, but keep in mind, Jova, that's basically all the characters get. And compared to how, you know, a lot of games in the past had the fatalities involved, the characters doing something unique with what they had, like Kano using his laser, Scorpion setting someone on fire with his call. You know, we completely lacked that in favor of the more classic type of fatality that you have, which, like you yourself said, is serviceable, not bad, but just that.
Mm-hmm. It's just very, like, again, this is what this was done. You can clearly tell this was done because it was hard to come up with fatalities for every single one of these characters. So they decided to experiment and create you create your own fatality. It's just a bad idea in general. Fortunately, Mortal Kombat 9 will make fatalities great again. So...
He literally kicks him in the butt.
Yeah, I know. Oh my god, that is so lame. Yeah, this is Spine Rep evil fatality? What makes that fatality evil in comparison to the others?
The amount of combos they actually perform.
Sure.
Also, I think I think the presentation of this is extremely flawed as well. Like, the music doesn't even start, it just kind of skips.
Yep.
It's to do it in time with it, Nolan. Ah, boy.
Here's a prime
Okay.
example. Rain will not be the character who will do something
Also,
like that.
Also, considering how repetitive some of these are, I actually have to question why we have a 25-minute-and-a-half part when it's all the same anyway.
Well, remember, Dwibs, there's
it's
actually
not
various.
all the same. There are some variations.
They all feel similar. It's just the same combination of break arm, rip body
Oh,
part,
crotch
and do
kick.
this.
That's the thing, Dwibs. Remember, there's a shit ton of different descriptions for the fatality. There's evil fatality, there's bloody fatality. Some were trying to go for. He's another
Not to
evil
mention-
fatality. I still don't.
Not to mention.
Go on.
Not to mention, as we just saw with Ermac, some even allow you to kick people in the crotch.
Yay.
That's
No,
the
that's
thing that's
really
over.
great, yeah.
We've seen so many really brutal fatalities. Crotch kicking is a bit.
It's something that Johnny Cage will do, but he will do even in a more spectacular way at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, he probably kicked the crotch while smiling for the camera.
That sounds more intuitive than most of the stuff we've seen in this game.
There you go. Alright, let's see. Well, I didn't know robots had organs.
Yeah, well, he would be a robot, would he? He'd be a cyborg.
Well, yeah, he is a cyborg. It's just
That's
that, you
what they
know.
are.
Well, that's the thing, too. They never explain how the optimization process actually works. Like, does it get rid of all of the human
Pedro,
organs? You know?
MK4, they did manage to find a way to
Oh.
make Sector human again.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, Cyrex, actually.
Cyrus, my bad.
Remember,
Sector is the one who crashes the power.
remember, Sector willingly volunteered for the optimization process because he actually agrees with his father.
That is the
so-
thing. No, it's pretty much confirmed that the Link Way cyborgs are still humans, just with these robotic parts completely enveloping them.
There you
Alright. Alright, then.
go. Oh!
Really? Even even with the creative fatalities, Stryker manages to be more lame than the others still. Most of his fatality is just kicking the ass of the opponent. Really,
So if I
Stryker?
understand correctly, this is essentially you just showing off like the full extent of what all these characters can do with their fatalities and the creative fatality.
That's basically it. Yeah. Bloody.
Wow, Shiva's was kind of lame.
Most of these are.
So why is it that some characters, have access to a much longer string than others do?
Because there's too many characters to
Also,
make special things
Not
for,
that,
so
no, it also depends on how much you decide to go through. Every character has the potential to actually go through as long as they can. It's just a matter of deciding how much you want to go.
alright, Chameleon, what you got? Oh look, haven't seen that move before.
Deja vu.
Yeah,
Okay,
Seen
that
this place
was-
before.
and now it's a vicious fatality.
So what's your favorite kind of fatality in this game?
I guess the ultimate one.
Ones that aren't lame.
Sorry,
Very
Dwibs.
specifically.
Sorry, Dwibs. You're gonna have to wait till Mortal Kombat 9 before we get great fatalities again.
I joke and say MK versus DC, but no!
No,
I
okay.
already said that.
Technically speaking, Jova, the one in NT versus here are better than this one. It's just both,
True,
and
yeah,
you know,
they are better. It's just,
they're
you
not
know.
the shot in the arm that the franchise was needing.
No, 9 was. There you go. I'm not a god of my word, reptile. All fatalities are off.
Yeah, really.
How many more times am I gonna see the exact same animations?
Especially against. Also, how
You
many
ready
times do
this
we need to
together?
teach you these lessons, Frost?
Seriously, the fatalities were always one of the primary things that helped define the character's identity in Mortal Kombat. We all remember Sub-Zero's spine ripping. We all remember Kano ripping someone's heart. We all remember Scorpion taking his mask off and then spitting fire at the opponent. Those are iconic fatalities that help make the characters more memorable. In here, since every character has a very generic combination of move fatalities that are easily interchangeable, it just makes everything blend in and robs the personality of all the characters.
You know, I try and look up MK7 game because, you know, this is the 7th game of the series. I get Mario Kart 7. Mario wins! Fatality!
I mean, we did see before the kart mode.
That's the thing. If there was an MK versus Mario crossover, I'm pretty sure Nintendo would say, okay, but you're not allowed to.
Mario could set someone on fire using the flower from the fire flower.
Yeah, but I'm pretty confident Nintendo would never allow that.
Bowser does get reduced to dry bones when he drops in lava in the Wii game, I think.
Seriously, I really have to wonder what are the. Okay, you can say it's like Taylor said. Maybe it's just because of the number of the combos, but I don't know. Some of these fatalities descriptions really seem.
Oh no, the naming feels arbitrary, but giving one of them attached to how much you have to actually perform seems, logical.
Oh sure, it's just that sometimes it just feels like for example, okay. So maybe it's because of the number of moves. Okay, fine. Even so, regardless of how it's achieved, the name Evil Fatality feels like a weird choice because Evil Fatality, okay, as opposed to Nice Fatality, like
that would be a friendship.
Yeah, friendship again. And that's the thing. You know what this means, right? This game has no finishing moves. No friendships, no brutalities, no nothing. It's not like it's not like those cool finishing moves were like the hallmark of the series or anything.
Also, what was that music?
Well, Teo, actually, according to the YouTube copyright ID, is the 2021 remasters of The Pit and what other songs that then Fordham made.
I wonder if it was a case where Warner Bros. Literally renewed the actual copyright, and as a result, that's why it's labeled in 2021.
Yeah, that's a sad thing. This is a 2007 game, and I'm getting copyright IDs for 2021 tracks. How does that even work? Alright, Kenshin. What is it? A blind fatality?
So yeah, at least he's using his sword.
Yeah, true.
The supercalifragilisticexpialidocious fatality.
Savage fatality. Okay.
It's like he's always different than the other.
That's the thing, that's what I was saying. I have no idea how the hell this game declares what's mortal, what's brutal, what's savage. Because, yes, you can argue, maybe it's because of the number that you see right there. I guess, but I've seen monikers show up in like, there's a vicious fatality here. But I'm pretty sure I've seen vicious fatalities that were done with a different number than that. So it's weird. It's kind of like...
Fine, let me bust up the wiki. Why not?
It kind of reminds me of the results screen of Final Fantasy XIII, where that results screen mixed a little. I still have no idea what the hell does it take to actually get a 5-star grade rating in the battles of Final Fantasy XIV, because so many times I will finish a battle in like
mostly the time, because there's an item that you get in the Architect's step. I think tied to the anti-mission. That's like the golden stopwatch, which basically cuts away a lot of the time limit that you're supposed to get in order to get the 5-star, meaning that it's pivotal in order to get the 5-star mark in all of the hunting missions.
I guess that's cool, but I would have preferred if the rating system would be just like, as long as I beat the opponents really fast and really efficiently, then I get a 5-star rating. I feel like
it's
that.
usually that, Pedro. It's just that for each fight, it's the timing that is set up is specific for each of that.
Well, that's the thing too. I've had plenty of times when I was playing the game where I bought and I fought like a random monster battle, and I finished the enemies really quickly, and still I got a 2-star rating though. So it's just, I don't really understand I get confused because it doesn't seem very consistent to me.
There we go. After a fatality has been performed, it's given a ranking depending on how many chains there were, like I said, the number of combos.
Yeah.
The higher number of chains in fatality will give the player more currency to spend in the crypt. 1 combo fatality, 2 deadly fatality, 3 killer fatality, 4 bloody fatality, 5 mortal fatality, 6 brutal fatality, 7 evil fatality, 8 vicious fatality, 9 savage fatality, 10 extreme fatality, 11 ultimate fatality. We've seen all of these at least until now.
I don't think we've seen the... Oh, wait, no, we did see the ultimate one, I think.
Yeah.
They just blend in so
However,
much.
if the timer runs out before a finisher can be inputted, the fatality will fail and no rank will be given, regardless of how many chains were inputted beforehand. So you also have to be quick about it.
These all blend in so much, I could just give my final thoughts now.
Wait, hold on. She pulled his heart out of his crotch.
Olaga, I don't know the biology works.
Well, remember, Jova, this is the franchise where Kano literally ripped someone's entire skeleton through that person's mouth as a fatality in 3. So I'm pretty sure realism went off. Yeah.
Granted, I do get it because it's more likely because Onaga has a much bigger model than most others, but still, though, maybe it just goes to show how really lax this mode was made.
There's a that's why in Mortal Kombat. Well, actually, no. In Trilogy, can you? No. Yeah, in Trilogy you still cannot. Well, okay. That's why even in Mortal Kombat Trilogy, when you do win against a boss character like Shao Kahn or Goro, you can't do a fatality on them. If they win, like if Goro or Shao Kahn win, they can do a fatality on said opponent, but you can't execute a fatality on Shao Kahn. Why? Because the excessive body size of the boss characters kind of screws up the fatality hitbox. So
also here for some of the specifics. Outside from the normal characters and characters who do possess a weapon, aka Dairu, Kenshi, Limei, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Fujin, Sarina, Shang Tsung, Ashura, and Cyrax, and also Jarek. The other characters who do have unique moves that you can perform during this great fatality are Blaze, Goro, Kintaro, Moloch, and Onaga.
Alright then.
But that's pretty much it. Otherwise, everyone else shares the same type of moveset.
Well, there you go then. But yeah, sure. You know what? I'm gonna have to side with Dwibs on this one. Dwibs, why don't you start your final thoughts while this is going? Because I'm getting tired of looking at this, to be honest with you.
I might as well go after doing this anyway.
Go on.
Well, no, Dwibs. At least stick around for the end of the video.
Go on, Dwibs.
Just try and be professional.
Well, let's see. I mean, the start of the game was pretty promising with a different idea for a story mode compared to instead of the Chronicles of a Moron, we get the Chronicles of less of a moron.
That's still a moron.
Trying to prevent the end of the world.
I guess Taven is more of the tragic figure Shujinko was trying to be and failed at it.
From what I've seen of this, he almost succeeds.
Wasn't Taven supposed to see to it that the world did get ended, just that it was refreshed properly?
Well, remember, Joe, canonicity says that he failed.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it all just kind of falls downhill near the end, especially with those quote-unquote endings. It's like they ran out of ideas and budget, so they just had to recycle stuff, and the only differences are audible. I mean, the fatalities are extremely... Yeah, they're so monotonous. We're giving our final thoughts before the part's even finished. That's pretty bad. I mean, the music isn't really all that memorable, although I don't think the music's been all that memorable since after 4. I'm not sure how much of a controversial statement that is, but it's
not really.
Yeah, maybe Dan Forden is much better at actually doing the music as opposed to being in charge of the sound. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to the next one where there are actually professional voice actors in the roles. Because I mean, it was nice hearing the developers try and fail to voice act in 4, but the more the games went on, the more that charm was just kind of evaporated, especially by 2006. it's 2006 and they're still using and they're still dragging people from the janitor's closet to be the VAs.
Do you mind speaking this mic for 5 minutes? Okay, thanks.
So it's kind of like the voice acting in King's Quest 5.
Or Chaos Wars.
Graham reaches down into the barrel and removes you, the smelly old fish.
King's Quest 5. Okay, that's the thing, Pedro. King's Quest 5, that came out in 1990. There was a bit more of an excuse then. This was 2006. Are you seriously telling me Midway was in such dire straits it couldn't even afford
just Fatality?
Even one professional VA?
Apparently, Dwibs.
I mean, they did it in the next game.
Oh yeah, I forgot the stage fatalities. There you go. There you go. Something more cool. There you go.
Stage fatalities. There's something.
There you go. Finally, something more interesting. Go on,
could you just cut all those other fatalities out and then just have this be the end?
To be fair, we needed to see some of the other variants here and there for like we usually are.
Well, the problem is,
really
yeah, this one's good. Yeah, this one's good.
The thing is,
that's lovely.
The differences in those ones are so minimal, there might as well not be any differences at all.
Carry on, this.
I mean, as for this particular timeline as a whole, again, it's like I said before, I think the series has a much better lore than it does a story.
Yeah,
like, it has all the characters, it has all the settings, and it has all the rules and regs of Mortal Kombat, which that's are going to change as long as you stick to the core themes. I can work with change, but the thing is, though, these games have tried to be more plot heavy compared to the other ones, and I don't think it really does that good of a job at that, to be honest.
No, they don't.
But plus, from what you said, John Vogel isn't a professional plot writer.
No, like I said, Dwibs, that's what happened in that's what happened in the Alliance. Like we needed someone to write, and John Vogel volunteered and decided to step up. Well, I can write here. I'll write it. It was literally like that. Like John Vogel decided to just write it himself. Why not, right?
Well, he said he could write anyway.
That's the thing. Their thought
double fatality.
That's the thing. Their thought process was just, well, John is volunteering, so why not let him try? And it seemed to work out fine, so they kept going. It was literally as simple and innocent as that. I assure you. Go on.
Right. Well. So yeah, I mean, the series as a whole, this particular timeline, started okay, and it was getting more entertaining of how they were trying to be more serious, but it just got kind of dull by the end. And I can see why, in 2011, they just decided, fuck it, this isn't working anymore, we've got to start over. We're on the PS3 and that now, so we're going to have to move on. And I'm pretty sure all our fans around the world, except in Australia, which didn't get it, will appreciate it.
Australia didn't get 9?
Australia does it for a very long time. It was actually banned for a very long while in Australia. Yahtzee mentioned it in his review.
It did eventually in 2013.
Yeah.
Well, at least they got.
Right.
Australia has very stupid censorship laws when it comes to video games.
I'm guessing they at the very least got the complete edition as a result.
Yes.
All right then.
Probably, yeah. So yeah, that's about it. I'm really at this point. I'm looking. At this point, the reboots are blessing. At the very least, just so we can see what different stuff they can do, when they're not hampered by all the different stuff in this time.
No. I can assure you that the reboot trilogy has no problem using proper cutscenes to show everything.
Direct hit.
Yes. All right, that's Dwibs' thoughts. Jova, go ahead.
It's just a lamer MK6, honestly. Yeah, I know. How weird is that? But yes, the one thing it does better than MK6 is that the protagonist is not as much of an idiot as the other one. Like, hell, even the story mode in general is lamer than that of 6's. I mean, now, I do pat them on the back for their attempts to make this the ultimate closer with everyone coming back. But nah, man, it's just not that great. It's more of a whimper than a bang. And the fatalities. Dear Christ, the fatalities. The best thing are the stage fatalities of them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just a lamer game. Now, in terms of the continuity or the original timeline, very promising start. Very promising start. And it was getting better. I'd say where things started to get a little bit off the rails was definitely 5. Like, 4 was, I'd say, a good introduction to the 3D realm, but 5 was where things were starting to get a bit screwy, especially with them deciding to outright kill Liu Kang for all his service, and, well, then 6 came along and they brought back his corpse. Class act. Seriously, you do have to wonder if Ed Boon had a thing against Liu Kang, like, just damn.
I can assure you he doesn't, Joe, but see, I genuinely believe he just sees it as a cool, as a cool dark thing to do. Like, he doesn't see it as something he has no malicious intent. At least I don't think so. I genuinely believe he genuinely thinks of this as just an interesting change to do. That's what I feel.
I'm gonna agree with Dwibs though that, man, it can come off as quite a thing, and well, to no one's shock nowadays, the fans didn't really dig it. Like, it just feels needlessly mean-spirited. And trust me, in a series like Mortal Kombat, that's saying something. Like, things just became a mess. Apparently, part of it was because of Midway forcing them to do certain things with other Mortal Kombat games, you told me?
Well, it didn't help that it didn't help that Midway never really gave Mythologies and Special Forces the proper resources that they needed to really be great. Really, John Tobias was working with very limited resources to make those games. So
I forget, how was it you put it, Dwibs, about how this timeline sort of came off in regards to the newer one?
Well, like we've said, like it may be, like it was. Like by the time we get to the end, it's just becoming a mess. So yeah, it's probably a good idea to just
start over.
And yet somehow they made a mess of things in only 3 games with the new timeline.
Well,
I will argue.
You know, guys. Maybe, just maybe, I feel. I mean, since he's the guy in overall charge of the thing. Maybe Ed Boon is a much better game director than he is a game storyteller.
Well, that's the thing, Dwibs. He doesn't actually tell the stories. Like, it's John Vogel who's in charge of the story, and he's the cutscene director. So
I do get the feeling though that Ed Boon is the guy in charge of deciding how things.
He does have final word. Yes, he does have final word. Yes, but I honestly, Joe, but that's the thing. Knowing Ed, I genuinely believe he just allows John to do what he thinks is best, because John is one of his closest friends. I genuinely believe. It's one of that's what the interesting thing about Ed and John. I get the feeling they are genuinely innocently feel like they are doing something good. even if it may be tone deaf, but I genuinely, at the very least, appreciate their earnestness, I guess.
Oh, it's definitely tone deaf, but okay, look. I don't think that they did it with intentionally malicious ideas here and there. But that being said, like Dwibs did point out, the minute Ed Boon pretty much became absolutely in charge of a series, suddenly all the terrible stuff was happening to Liu Kang, which is a bit of a weird thing. And look. I'm not going to act like Ed Boon hates Liu Kang, and I get it. Maybe he wanted to get new blood in there, but again, it's weird that once again, one of the critiques with the newer timeline was that when they tried to do some new ground with Liu Kang, it kind of backfired.
I will argue what they did with the reboot trilogy was still better than what happened here. Because the reboot,
the fact that he doesn't get slaughtered.
Because remember, at the very least in the reboot trilogy, they're still able to have him, have his final climax where he saves the entire universe. So there's that. Not to mention the stories. Not to mention, if you took away the whole Liu Kang being the serviced angle out of the equation, the stories in general are just far more enjoyable than what we saw in this in the PS2 trilogy. So,
look. The stories in general do get more interesting. It's just that what they ultimately did was questionable. Again, like I said, it feels like Mortal Kombat 11 was made as kind of an apology letter for how things had kind of become a mess again, to the point where, once again, the end result of that game was to reboot things and fix it up again.
That being said, I will argue that this is a very interesting reboot, because what the end of Aftermath implies is something that I'm actually looking forward to. If we're going to play as the Great Kung Lao in Mortal Kombat 12, as one of, like, if he's going to be the protagonist of Mortal Kombat 12, that would be cool, because we've never explored that part of the lore.
Yeah, that could be very interesting to see.
So that I'm definitely still excited. When you watch the ending of this, it just leaves you with that happens, I guess.
I do wonder what Mortal Kombat fans thought after the end of this game. Like, I mean, as far as they knew, it's like, okay, is the world getting destroyed? Is it not? Are we continuing? Like, okay.
No, it destroys. Ed Boon confirmed.
Okay. I'm talking about how it was back then. Like, obviously now we know how it's supposed to go, but imagine how Mortal Kombat fans must have felt when this game came out. Like
I said,
it doesn't seem to really be that conclusive or anything, even with the Taven ending.
Like I said, even if the game itself doesn't seem to make it clear, Ed Boon in the marketing and interviews, even back in the day, did say that this was the whole idea, that this was going to be the final game, that everybody was going to die, and then we could reboot this crap and all that shit. Ed Boon never made it a secret that this was meant to be the reboot game where everybody dies, basically.
I guess.
Here's his actual quote. Here's his actual quote from back in the day. By finishing up everything, we can move on to the next generation with a clean slate. This is his actual quote. There you go. So he never hid the fact that this was meant to be a game to basically just wipe the slate clean.
That said, given a lot of factors, I still wouldn't blame it if anyone else was confused with the stance of things, especially since the next game that came after was supposed to be MK8, then got canceled, and then we got MK versus DC, which clearly was taking from the old timeline again, so...
Actually, Joe, Mortal Kombat 11 does reference MK versus DC at one point, so...
Oh, I know. I know what I'm getting. I'm talking about how confused fans must have been back in the day.
Oh, sure, sure.
Obviously now things are a lot more clear.
Sure. I will argue MK versus DC is definitely more enjoyable than this, to be honest.
Definitely.
It's fun.
Definitely.
I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but I think, like, the story, while the story is fine as a nice crossover, what if these two factions met type of storyline, it works fine enough, I will argue, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I mean, given that was how I was introduced to Mortal Kombat, I can definitely attest that it's a fine and good game.
It works fine for what it is. It's nothing amazing or anything, but yeah, for the final midway Mortal Kombat game, there were worse ways of going out.
Oh, trust me, MK versus DC is a much better send-off than this game. Because, yeah, going back to my final thoughts, this game's lame. Simple as that.
Alright, Teo, if I remember correctly, you have a much more positive outlook on this game, so go ahead.
So this is actually my favorite of the PS2 trilogy, at least because back in the day I also used to play this a lot with a couple of friends. The major downside gameplay-wise is admittedly the simplification of the fatalities. But if the trade-off was to have all of the roster, all of the characters appear so far, that renders it more, viable, or at least if you play couch versus between each other, because that way, similar to stuff like, again, Budokai Tenkaichi 3, for example, you can literally do all the combinations that you want with your favorite character and all, So my thought process back in the day, since you did ask for feedback on that front, Joe, was hoping that this was going to be the base upon which the team was gonna build for the next titles, just sticking to these kind of like Smash Bros. In a sense of what Pirates of Rising, Smash Ultimate might be for the future. Just taking what it is at the base and then improve your economy. Maybe since the next game is gonna be on a different hardware, just polish it a bit more and now start introducing personalized fatalities for the characters, since the consoles will have more power, more memory, or more capabilities. But no, they decided to just do a complete clean slate. I suppose it worked for the better in the end. But that was my thought process back in the day.
Even the ones you didn't like.
It's just one of those cases where...
No, that is irrelevant in that case, because a character that I don't like in a fighting game is something that another person likes, and vice versa. Like you mentioned Mireena before, I really cannot stand her, for example. But what I was mentioning... And there we go, the story mode. The Conquest mode is a much better than the one with Shujinko. Taven is better, again, like I said, a better tragic figure than Shujinko was, even if there was a bit of manipulation, but at the very least it felt like we were trying to be a bit more compact with the lore in, tying things together instead of just, now there are these different realms that we never mentioned before, and now they're suddenly important with the Elder Gods and stuff, So there is that, and even if the way it concludes seems kind of abrupt, again, at the very least, it feels a bit more satisfying than Shujinko just being fucked around and being a complete idiot, if not downright villainous, until the very end he decides, I'm gonna fix this, and he just does. At the very least, Taven stays more consistent throughout, and it's not in a sense relatable, but it's a character that it's more in tune in terms of perspective with the player, because the player still doesn't know a lot of information that Taven doesn't know. With Shujinko it was kind of similar, but we did a complete mess with that. So in that kind of way, despite its flaws, I will take the gameplay and I will take the story mode in that kind of sense. And that's not even counting the extra modes that you can have here, which this is the most varied with. Well, like I said, I honestly believe that some of these should be released as small budgeted standalone games of their own, just to capitalize on the franchise and to have a way to repropose that without having to necessarily repropose the entire game, for people who are just interested. Again, kind of like Gwent for the Witcher, series. So there is that, basically. Pedro.
For me, it's just one of those cases where, again, there's a reason why when developers like Arc System Works make a fighting game, they don't go like it's one of those cases where, yes, it was easy for the trilogy to be balanced despite having all those characters, because the 2D Mortal Kombat games were much simpler in how they were made. Trying to recapture that with this with the 3D technology is way more difficult, and definitely should have been attempted.
They had even more characters than with
and the fact that they have even more characters. Yeah, if they really wanted to try something like this again, they should have waited until we got the more powerful hardware, because the PS2 was probably not powerful enough to really handle the ambition of Mortal Kombat Armageddon. This is and that's basically the gist of it. This is a game that falls under the weight of its own ambition, because as a result of trying to pack in all the characters, it has to sacrifice the fatalities, which Don't get me wrong, I appreciate a game with a lot of characters, but I do not, if the sacrifice is the fatalities and all finishing moves, I don't think that's a good enough trade-off for me. Without a Mortal Kombat game without finishing moves, like it's like making a
good enough trade-off if all the characters played very well, which from what we've seen, no, not all of them did.
Don't get me wrong, the first Mortal Kombat game was a decent fighting game. It was. But, let's face it, what made it stand out, what gave the series its identity, was the finishing moves that stood out, the fatalities. If you take that away, again, it's like the Super Nintendo version of MK1. If you take away the fatalities, it's not Mortal Kombat anymore. Like, it's like you need to have the fatalities in there. They're the series signature feature. When people think Mortal Kombat, what's the first thing that comes up? The fatalities. That's the most iconic thing of the series. You know, it's like, this is like making a Sonic game without speed. You can't have, like, yes, change is fine. You can try different things, but like, there is a limit, and this is definitely something that I will argue went too far. Like, taking out the personalized fatalities, I will argue was not a good trade-off. Not like, yeah, I'm fine with having all the characters in, but if the trade-off is sacrificing the fatalities, that I cannot agree with that. I cannot, sorry. But yeah, the conquest mode is better, but still not very good.
It's better, but at what cost?
It's better. Well, I will argue the gameplay is definitely a huge improvement over the first games. If anything, because we're not constantly being barraged with tutorials that cannot be skipped. So there's that at least. It's an enjoyable gameplay experience. The writing is still bad, but on a gameplay standpoint, it works much better than the first conquest mode, to be well, the second technically, because technically the Alliance has a first, but most people don't really care. Most people even forget that the Alliance had a conquest mode because it's whatever. Yeah. The other problem with having a lot of characters is how the fighting is much less balanced. See, the reason most people see Deception as the highlight of the PS2 trilogy is because it's an overall better constructed fighting game. The characters are more balanced. There's, well, yeah, you know the basic gist of it. There's more balance, and balance is incredibly important in a fighting game. And because of the shit ton of characters, throw the balance off, and as a result, it's like, if you like fighting game, a lot of fighting game veterans / purists will tell you that technically Deception is an overall better fighting game because it's better constructed. It's because, again, that balance is key to making a great fighting game in general, and that's why people usually gravitate towards Deception. Because yes, conquest mode is stupid. Chujinko is a moron. Yes, we've all talked about that. But if you took away the conquest mode, Deception is an excellent fighting game for the PS2. It has some really awesome optional modes, it's really cool. But yeah, Armageddon, on the other hand, it's an ambitious effort, and I applaud it for it. But yeah, it definitely falls under the weight of its own ambition. As a result, it's a game. Okay, it's a nice attempt to. I do enjoy. Okay, I like Teo. I'm actually okay with a Mortal Kombat story having a more downer ending. Because this is, when I think Mortal Kombat, I don't really think of lighthearted stories. I'm okay with downer tones for this series personally. So, but that's just me.
I wouldn't say that being a lighter story or has anything to do with having a good ending.
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. What I mean is that, okay, Taylor particularly doesn't seem to like it much when John Vogel tends to have a sad ending, like where someone
like the way it's balanced, Pedro. Like he said, you spend most of the plot in a consistent way, then there's a sudden, shift towards, oh shit, everything is going down, like almost at the last second, and then everything turns out mostly alright in a more balanced way. It's like a schizophrenic curve. It's mostly stable for the most part, then it drops and then it picks up again. Like there's that spike in the middle.
I guess
right near the end of it.
I guess sure. No, but regardless, no, like the game does a poor job in conveying its finality angle, because the endings are terribly conveyed. The lack of pictures really take away from any impact they could have, because it's literally like you're sitting down and you're watching someone read this to you.
And from what you told me, unless you were one of those very avid gamers back in the day who were able to keep up with all the interviews, let's keep in mind, this was made in a time when the internet is not as prominent as it is now, so probably would have been tougher to keep up with, the interviews with Ed Boon back then.
Mm-hmm. I can see that as well.
Like I said, so many people probably would have been just left confused by this ending.
It's just, again, like I said, the big problem with the endings is the fact that this feels like you're just sitting down and hearing someone read this to you. It feels inelegant. It lacks elegance, and the pictures of Deception that Alliance did such a much better job of conveying what actually happens to the characters at the end, because they actually show us something. Again, showing it's a cliche term, but it really there's a reason why this is a cliche term. Like, showing really is that important. Because if you're just sitting down and hearing someone read something to you, it doesn't have the same impact as actually reading it yourself. But yeah, the point is, Mortal Kombat Armageddon is an ambitious, noble effort. But it does fall into the way of its own ambition. As a result, it's an interesting finale for the final. For the original timeline. But as a fighting game, it definitely drops the ball compared to its predecessor. So yeah, like if you're into just doing some random multiplayer sessions, and just having some casual fun playing the game, that's of course great. But in terms of being a great fighting game to use for competitive tournaments and stuff like that, no, Armageddon doesn't really cut the mustard, which is a shame because Deception does. So it really is a case of you have to wonder, it just depends on what you prefer. Do you prefer more characters at the expense of balance, or would you prefer a more tighter, balanced game with fewer characters? It just depends on what you want, or what you personally want, I guess. I personally think this game probably could have benefited from trying to diminish the roster a bit. Not necessarily take this. Try to take out Reiko. Nobody cares about Reiko. There you go. If taking out characters like Reiko and Tanya and Kai would have allowed them to focus time on balancing the game better, I feel that would have been a good trade-off, because nobody gives a shit about Reiko. Or Cobra. Take out Cobra. Take out Kira. Nobody gives a shit about those two. Take out Mavado. Nobody cares about those characters. I feel like nobody would. I mean, yeah. Obviously, some people who really wanted everybody to be in would. But I feel like the trade-off would have been worth it. I think
my favorite bit is always going to be John Vogel saying that, to my dismay, we even brought back Su Hao, the character that even the devs hate.
Yeah, that's it. Ed, John, if maybe consider taking out Su Hao. I genuinely believe nobody's going to get angry at you if you take out Su Hao.
Okay. To be fair to John, it sounds like the decision to bring back Su Hao was outside of his jurisdiction. That's probably something that was more something Ed was insistent on, because
you also have to wonder how much Midway was involved in dictating stuff for this game.
Anyway,
as much as Midway did dictate a lot, I doubt they were the ones saying that every character had to be back.
Desperate situation, Joe. I wouldn't be surprised if a company tried something desperate.
Well, anyway,
I guess only because we haven't really seen any evidence to suggest stuff. But back to you, Pedro.
Regardless, that was Mortal Kombat Armageddon, but we're not quite done. We're not quite at the point where I pass the baton to Teo. Not yet, because we have one more game made by Midway: Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. So, Dwibs, question: what happens if the Mortal Kombat characters get thrown into an adventure with the DC characters?
A whole bunch of wacky shit happens, and Superman gets his head ripped off by one of the Mortal Kombat.
Unfortunately, Dwibs, DC didn't like the idea of Superman having his head ripped off, so we can't have that.
Oh yeah,
I also didn't like the idea of Superman killing.
Oh yeah, because Superman hasn't shown to be fallible or kill people before.
Oh, again. Back then, DC were all about having a more squeaky clean image for Superman, which, you know, I can get. Like, Superman is kind of supposed to be the Boy Scout.
Indeed.
It goes into his character, into how he maintains his power without, you know, brutally murdering people.
Well, here's a solution to that then.
Anyway,
Have it set in an Elseworld.
All right. We can talk about this when we
Regardless.
actually get to the game. See you for the Mortal Kombat versus DC, everybody.
yeah.
Goodbye.